Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So today we are going to talk about Kyrsten Sinema out of Arizona not supporting the elimination of the filibuster, saying her mind cannot be changed. This is a very, very good thing for Republicans and, preserving the Trump agenda, as much of Biden's agenda will not be able to get passed if the filibuster remains in place. So as you can see here, that's a very good thing moving forward. And I'm going to talk about the state of Arizona and why it's not gone for Republicans. Georgia, on the other hand, we'll have to discuss that in a different video. But the state of Arizona, Republicans have a shot for it in the future, and I'm going to be discussing why that exactly is. But first, I have to tell you guys about my friends over at My Patriot Supply. When you think about the future of our country and where it's headed, do you wonder about the food supply? Because I certainly do, especially under Biden. And disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. The Red Cross recommends having at least 1 month's worth of food and water for everyone in your household, but make sure you get emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage, so it's ready to eat whenever you need it. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan, and you should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, especially now. So go to preparewithredeagle.com and get ready. That's preparewithredeagle.com. There is no time to lose. Do it now. So Senator Kyrsten Sinema decided to do a fairly noble gesture, and I think credit has to be given where it's due. It's, a bipartisan gesture, and it definitely will impede the Biden administration ability to get anything done, and hopefully it can kind of have a herd mentality that gets developed among the fence-sitting Democrats, so Joe Manchin will also not support it. So it's not really going to go anywhere if this report is true. That is a big if. Politicians lie. That's what they do. And they will stab you in the back, so do take it with a grain of salt. But until it's proven otherwise, I would say it's a big-time white pill if the filibuster is not going anywhere, because that means the next 2 years are going to be a whole lot easier. Biden is not going to be able to pass any amnesty, and as a result, that is very good news, especially for the future of the Republican Party. So we talk about the state of Arizona, and we look into the state, and we look at Arizona in 2020. And I understand that this election is a very difficult one to analyze, especially given a lot of the circumstances, how the election was conducted, the reports that have come out of Arizona with the shenanigans that may have taken place. So it is difficult to analyze, no doubt. But talking about Trumpism and talking about the state, I don't think Trumpism is dead in Arizona. In fact, if you look at the Arizona GOP, look at the Twitter account, look at the rhetoric that they've exactly been tweeting out. You have Kelly Ward, who was, an original MAGA populist, ran for Senate against McCain in 2016 in the primary, almost successfully. If Trump decided to endorse her, she probably would have won. You have them retweeting MAGA isn't going anywhere, promoting Andy Biggs, which is one of their more conservative representatives. So definitely the party is moving towards Trumpism. That is a good sign. And if you want to look at this, Donald Trump did better in this election than Martha McSally, who's essentially a female John McCain. She served in the military, fairly, moderate to neocon type of history in the House of Representatives. And she goes out there and she loses to Mark Kelly by a wider margin than Donald Trump lost the state to Joe Biden by. So you talk about establishment Republicans, usually you would think that the establishment Republicanism would have done better, like it did in the state of Georgia, where David Perdue outperformed Donald Trump in the 2020 general, not the runoff, by approximately 2 to 3%. Now, you look at this election here, Martha McSally underperforms by 3% to Mark Kelly. And you look at where the Trump-Kelly voters were. Who were these people? Mainly Midwestern transplants. A lot of Midwestern people are moving to Arizona. I may be moving to Arizona in the near future. It's true. And the reason why is because a lot of Midwestern voters tend to be more populist. A lot of them may have liked Trump and Trump's policies, but were a little bit turned away from Martha McSally and her elitism and her neoconservatism that really didn't sit well or ever really do well up in the Midwest. And a lot of people moving down to Arizona, yes, you have liberals that are moving from places like California and New York, but you also have conservatives and populists that are moving from places like Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. And those are states that Trump did much better in than previous Republicans. And you can look at this and you can see, hey, maybe populism does have a future in Arizona. I mean, Arizona as a whole is a state that is not necessarily uniform. It is true that Maricopa County is growing, but you have a large population center in Yavapai County, which is where Prescott is. You have Yuma. And you have many other, exurban counties as well that have decent population centers to them. And in 2018, I pulled this up. McSally lost to Sinema, who ran as a blue dog Democrat. She supported border enforcement, at least in rhetoric, and she supported Social Security and ran against McSally. Didn't run the best campaign. It was a blue wave year, and she did very well. And you could look at this as another example of establishment Republicanism failing in the state. And you could look at Doug Ducey. Now, I've soured on Doug Ducey, but Doug Ducey in 2018 tied himself to Trump. He was there at the Trump rallies. It didn't hurt him. He won by 14, 15 points over David Garcia, who, yes, was more of a Bernie Democrat. Obviously, Bernie Democrats would do far worse in a place like suburban Phoenix than a Democrat like Kyrsten Sinema or even like Joe Biden. But that's beside the point. Doug Ducey did fairly well and was arguably had a history that was more Trumpian than Martha McSally did. So you can look at this as further evidence that populism does do well in Arizona. Obviously, I wouldn't consider Ducey a populist now, but in the campaign trail 2014, 2018 was a different story. And you could look at the previous governor, Jan Brewer, as a further example of populism that succeeds electorally in the state of Arizona. You could also look at Representative Paul Gosar. He's probably the best representative in the country, in my opinion. You have Andy Biggs and Debbie Lesko, two other, Trump-aligned representatives. You've also had, Sheriff Joe in the past and Barry Goldwater. All these people are, in the paleocon side of things, or paleo-libertarian in the case of, I believe, Biggs and Goldwater. And you could look at this and you could say, hey, well, the Arizona GOP's been divided. In fact, the neocons are going to be driven out, which does give them a potential to actually do better. Obviously, Arizona does have some letdowns in history, like the McCain family and McSally and a few other neocons like Jeff Flake, but the state itself is not fully tinted with neoconservatism. It is very possible for Trumpian candidates to do well in the state of Arizona, and it's possible for them to even do even better in the future. And you look at this New York Times report here, and you could see that the Latino community, which has been a growing community in Arizona, and it's voted mainly Democrat in the past, it's starting to shift a little bit to the right. In fact, a lot of areas in, South Phoenix that are more than 50% Latino are moving to the right. That can also kind of offset some of the white suburban shift to the left, and we don't know what's going to happen in 2024. If we elect a, governor down there who can fix the voting system in 2022, and 2024, Ron DeSantis is the nominee if Trump doesn't want to run. And DeSantis, I think he'd do better in the suburbs than Trump. I think that Phoenix and the Phoenix suburbs would probably trend a little bit to the right, if anything. It's not for sure, but it's very interesting to look into because it is something that I believe is very possible. Looking at 2016 as well, even though there was a 4-point shift to the left in the state, most counties, Pinal County's a decent size, Prescott and I believe a few others actually shifted to the right. Pima moved to the left, but Pima could be turning the corner if the Hispanic trends continue, as well as some of these other smaller rural counties like Yuma and the counties on the eastern part of the state. So it's definitely possible, especially if you look at the industry of the state of Arizona. Besides the service industry, what are the industries below? Manufacturing, agriculture, mining, and energy. Those are all significantly, populist, Republican type of industries, and they're trending to the right. So if Republicans make a play for the state properly, they're going to be just fine in the state, in my opinion, to the end of the decade, if not a little bit after that. Arizona is not gone for Republicans. It's not. I continue to believe that Arizona is not gone. Georgia, on the other hand, is different. I think Texas, I think that's going to stay in the Republican column for a little while. We'll do a video on Texas. We'll do a video on Georgia here sometime in the future. But in the meantime, looking at Arizona, looking at the symbolic gesture of Sinema, if this report is true, which for a second, let's assume it is, you have a senator who's a Democrat. I mean, the voting record has been a little iffy in the past, voted to, I believe, impeach Trump back in early 2020. So Sinema exactly hasn't been the most conservative Democrat the way that she was in the House. She's still been one of the more conservative, more populist Democrats in the Senate. But looking at Sinema and seeing the fact that she's in a state that is trending to the left, at least apparently, deciding to keep the filibuster in place, be the deciding vote, stab her entire party and their agenda in the back in a state that's moving so far to the left, apparently, well, I think that she even knows something that we don't. And that is the fact that Trumpism will thrive in Arizona. I do believe that it will. Arizona is not gone. Party registration, Republicans still lead in party registration, and they started to gain towards the end of the 2020 cycle, even in Maricopa. So it's possible, and I'm telling people that Arizona is not gone. Obviously, we got to clean up the system. That's priority number one in the midterms. And then 2024, we'll talk about 2024. We have 3 years to go until 2024. It's funny, I did that tier list video, and yet a lot of people that were a little confused at some of my decisions, and that's fine. I mean, there were 34 candidates. Not everybody's going to agree with every single tier placement, and we're going to be updating that tier list as the years go on, but we're just so far away, and you have all this speculation, and everybody's gonna have a different take on it, and that's fine. But in terms of my speculation for today's video, Arizona is not something that the Republicans should write off. Georgia, it might be competitive in 2024. After that, it's probably gone. But Arizona, I think, may be here to stay for a couple more cycles. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Please like this video down below, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media, become a member, donate to the Patreon, or subscribe. Star links in description. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.